Evening, y'all. Hey, I'm really glad you're here. Thanks for coming to hang out with me again. And I have a couple of notes real quick up front. First of all, I'm going to have to cut this short because I have to take my mom to pick up her car, which is in the shop, and I have to take my daughter to her lacrosse practice. I say have to, I get to. But anyway, so I'm going to have to cut this short. But the topic for tonight bears some consideration. The topic for tonight is almost heaven, like hell, and I understand that some people might be offended by that, and I apologize that you're offended, but I regret that you're offended. But anyway, let's talk about what we're saying here. So, of course, almost heaven, that refers to West Virginia, obviously. That is our motto here in West Virginia, almost heaven. Uh, there's a song about it, I think. But anyway, just for the record, my family and I chose to live in West Virginia because we do consider it almost heaven. We love it here. Not just the beautiful terrain. We've been all over the world. We've lived all over the world in the military and also as missionaries. We've been a lot of different places and we've seen a lot of really beautiful things. And frankly, we're convinced that West Virginia competes favorably with everything else we've seen around the world. But more importantly, the people of West Virginia, I would stand them up before anybody. Good folks trying really hard to do the right thing. In general, there are always exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, the West Virginians I know are good folks who kind of have their heads screwed on straight and are trying to do the right thing. So we chose to live here. We, we've lived a lot of other places, and this is where we chose to put down our roots, and we love it here. So, do I believe that West Virginia is almost heaven? Absolutely. I'm a big fan of West Virginia. I love it here, and this is our home. But the thing is that there's one huge, disgusting, vile, oozing, pustulant sore on the face of West Virginia, and that is our government. It is a sad, pathetic, disgusting thing, and we need to correct it. And that's why I come here every Wednesday night. It's why I do all the other things that I do, is because I want almost heaven to be a little bit more like heaven and a little bit less like the place we're going to discuss tonight. So, if I may, I would like to bring in a pinch hitter to help me out here. I'm going to rely on my old friend, hey, Miss Rose, my old friend, my compadre, a guy whom I've never actually met face to face, but or in person, but who has gotten me through a lot of hard times in my life, and that is the man, the myth, the legend, C.S. Lewis, Clive Staples Lewis, otherwise known as Jack. So I say I'm going to bring him in here. Obviously, the gentleman has moved on to his eternal reward, and so the only way that I can tell you what he has to say on the matter is to actually read it to you. And I hope you don't mind. It's kind of a lengthy passage, and it's not actually from one of his books. It's from the introduction to the second edition of his book, The Screwtape Letters. And I don't know how many of you have actually had the chance to read the Screwtape Letters, but it's well worth the read. It is, Lewis said that it was very difficult for him to write this book and that it took a lot out of him. And I think it's an important book. Basically, the premise of the book is that there are these two demons. One is a senior demon, one's a junior demon, and the senior demon is writing letters. The senior demon is named Screwtape. Is writing letters to his junior, his trainee demon, whose name is Wormwood, and he's giving him pointers. He's giving him instruction on how to do his job of destroying the soul of his the human that he's assigned to. It's referred to in the book as his patient, kind of like a doctor has a patient. So that's basically the premise of the book. And a lot of people apparently asked Lewis why in the world he would choose to make hell, to describe hell the way that he did. And basically the way that he did was he described hell as a bureaucracy. Hell itself, the ultimate repository of all evil. He described it as a bureaucracy. So, if I may, I would like to defend my assertion that although West Virginia is almost heaven, sometimes it's like hell, and I hope that I can make a good point, and well, I know that I can make a good point. I hope that I can make it well so that it makes sense to everyone, and you can see where I'm going with this. So, this is C.S. Lewis talking in the introduction to his second edition, 1961 edition of the Screwtape Letters. He says, "We must picture hell as a state where everyone is perpetually concerned about his own dignity and advancement, where everyone has a grievance, and where everyone lives the deadly serious passions of envy, self-importance, and resentment. This to begin with. For the rest, my own choice of symbols depended, I suppose, on some temperament and on age. I live in the managerial age, in a world of admin," and that's his quotes. I'm just doing the finger thing to let you know that he put it in quotes. "In a world of admin." Now, this harkens back to, I think maybe y'all remember me talking previously, and you'll hear me talking about it in the future. Woodrow Wilson's, no relation to me, thank God. Woodrow Wilson's paper published in 1887 called The Study of Administration, which actually established the concept that we need experts to run our lives, that our government could no longer be run, that we, the people, could no longer manage to run our own government, to govern ourselves, that what we needed was really smart people to tell us what to do. All right. So Lewis is kind of hearkening to that same idea, although he's not actually specifically referring to Wilson's published paper. "I live in the managerial age, in an age of admin. The greatest evil is not now done in those sordid dens of crime that Dickens loves to paint," Charles Dickens, of course. "It is not done even in concentration camps and labor camps. In those, we see its final result. But it is conceived and ordered, moved, seconded, carried, and minuted in clean carpeted, warmed, and well-lighted offices by quiet men with white collars and cut fingernails, and smooth-shaven cheeks who do not need to raise their voice. Hence, naturally enough, my symbol for hell is something like the bureaucracy of a police state or the offices of a thoroughly nasty business concern." So, Lewis says that when he decided to write a book that would help people to sort of envision what was really going on when hell was trying to take over, when evil forces were trying to interject themselves into the world's affairs or into the affairs of private people, that it looks, from his perspective, it looks more like a bureaucracy than anything else. And I hope that you can stay with me for just a minute and see why. Lewis refers to Milton, one of the documents that we discussed last time. Milton has told us that the devil with devil damned firm concord holds. Devil with devil damned firm concord holds. That means is they stick together. Does this sound familiar? I keep getting asked how it is that the statist leftist loons manage to walk in lockstep, whereas those of us who want to be free can't manage to get our stuff together to fight against those people who are in lockstep. And the simple answer to that is because we want to be free, because we're sane, because we can't subordinate ourselves to some other loon's lunacy, because we insist on truth, because we insist on knowing what's going on. So I do have some hope to offer here. So a German field marshal stated during World War II that war is chaos, and the Americans excel at chaos, and there are good reasons for that. So you'll note that when a totalitarian regime moves in, that they're in lockstep. They're all focused on the same mission. They're all moving the same direction, and that is intimidating and overwhelming and very effective at first. And then when the free men finally start to grasp what the mission really is, they come at it from all sorts of angles. They're not in lockstep. They work together towards a common goal using a common set of principles. But the thing is, they do it with the gifts that each one of them has. They bring everything they've got to the fight. Do you see the difference? I hope you do. I hope you can see the difference. So we've had these people goose-stepping over us in lockstep, stomping on our rights, threatening us, cajoling us, insulting us, mocking us. And what they don't understand is that to their subordination of their will and of their person to this hierarchy will only get them so far. And I hope they understand. Hey, Mike, good to see you. All right. So you have the admin, the administrative state, right? That runs this goose stepping horde. And then you have us free people who just want to hang out and act cool and want to live good lives and want to take care of our families. And what they don't understand is that when we as individuals decide to assert a common goal, that we will be utterly unstoppable, completely. So back to what Lewis is quoting Milton as saying, devil with devil damned firm concord holds. It means that the evil ones hold very strongly to each other. And then he asks, well, how do they do it? Certainly not by friendship. A being which can still love is not yet a devil. Here again, my symbol seems to me useful. It enabled me by earthly, a symbol of bureaucracy. On the surface, manners are normally It enabled me by earthly parallels to picture an official society held together entirely by fear and greed, the bureaucracy that he's describing. On the surface, manners are normally suave. Rudeness to one's superiors would obviously be suicidal. Rudeness to one's equals might put them on their guard before you were ready to spring your mine. For of course, dog eat dog is the principle of the whole organization. Everyone wishes everyone else's discrediting, demotion, and ruin. Everyone is an expert in the confidential report, the disinterested pursuit of something called evil. Mine have no use. I'm sorry. He's saying that the people that he's referring to, these evil ones, they have no disinterested pursuit of something called evil. That doesn't make any sense. They are very bad men. Bad angels, like bad men, are entirely practical. They have two motives. The first is fear of punishment. For as totalitarian countries have their camps for torture, so my hell contains deeper hells for its houses of correction. Their second motive is a kind of hunger. Are you listening? This is it. A kind of hunger. I feign that devils can, in a spiritual sense, eat one another. Even in human life, we've seen the passion to dominate, almost to digest one's fellow, to make his whole intellectual and emotional life merely an extension of one's own, to hate one's hatreds and resent one's grievances and indulge one's egoism through him as well as through oneself. His own little store of passion must be suppressed to make room for ours. Folks, I know you look at the world around you and you say, what the devil is happening? What is going on here? What is the motive? You look at what your government agents are doing, your employees in the government, whether they're elected or appointed or hired or whatever. If you look at them and you say, what they're doing doesn't make any sense. And my response to you is, it makes sense. It makes absolute sense. You simply don't understand what their actual goals are if you're looking at what they're doing and you don't see the sense in it. Here's the sense right here. This is it. This is it. We have seen the passion to dominate, almost to digest one's fellow, to make his whole intellectual and emotional life merely an extension of one's own. That's it. That's what's really going on here. So you and I, we say, hey, we've got this government. We formed it for our own purposes, to secure our individual natural rights, those of our kids, to defend our borders, to police the streets, to make sure that the bad guys don't have the opportunity to destroy our lives, so we can get on with our lives, which means that we can take care of our kids, we can raise them to be good citizens, we can invest in our communities, we can build our businesses, we can make the world a better place, because the government provides the security around our rights and our opportunities and our liberties that allows us to do that. And that's what you and I, sane, normal people who love our families and love our country, believe until we are disabused of that notion. Now, don't get me wrong, that's what it's supposed to be, but it is absolutely not what you actually see before you if you're paying attention and you actually consider the evidence that's presented to you. So, what do you actually see? You see this. You see people trying to consume each other. When I was in Charleston, that was what it was all about. It was about this guy establishing his prestige over some other guy, and then that guy having to kiss the first guy's ring to get to the position where he could have some prestige at a point. And if you ever got to the point where he had more prestige or a higher level of prestige than the first guy, he could then make him pay for what he had done to him. Constant, constant resentment, retribution. What was the phrase here? Uh, Everyone lives the deadly serious passions of envy, self importance, and resentment. Envy, self importance, and resentment. If you honestly look at your government through that lens, everything falls into place. If you look at it and you say, well, if they're trying to achieve world peace, why would they do this? What you understand is they're not trying to achieve world peace. They're trying to own people. They're trying to consume them. You know, in the Declaration of Independence, um, the colonists explained their problem with King George. They laid it out. They said, this is why we have to declare our independence. And there's a very interesting phrase in there. Give me 2 seconds and I'll give it to you because I want to give it to you exactly. So, there's the section that I always quote, we hold these truths to be self-evident, and it explains what they're doing, but this explains why. The history of the present King of Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states, over the American states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. In other words, we're going to give you the facts that explain or that support the claim that we make that he wants to establish tyranny, an absolute tyranny over this state, these states. This is such a beautiful thing here. Give me 2 seconds. Here we go. It's I don't know, it's about a dozen lines down. He says, he has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and to eat out their substance. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. That is from the document that our forefathers used to explain why they were going to war with the greatest nation on earth, the most powerful nation, not the best nation, not the most good, but the greatest power-wise. They were basically declaring war against the greatest empire that the world had ever known at that point. And yeah, I know some of my good friends will argue with me that the Medes, the Persians, the Romans, the Greeks all had they all had great empires. But frankly, the British Empire was, it was global. It didn't cover every spot on the globe, but it covered all around the globe. So anyway, we could argue about that some other time. But the point is that the Americans declared war against Great Britain, saying in part that one of the primary reasons was because the king sent officers to harass the people and eat out their substance. Does that sound familiar to you at all? Does that sound familiar to you? So if the king were actually trying to administer effectively 13 colonies that were an extension of his empire, that provided income, resources to the people of his empire, that provided opportunities, all that kind of thing, is that how he would manage it? And the answer, of course, is no. So you look at it and you say, this guy's trying to run an empire, and yet he's behaving this way. What could his motive possibly be? To harass people and to eat out their substance. Look, folks, you got to understand your government is not here to help. Your government is here to harass you and to eat out your substance. It shouldn't be that way. And I'm not saying the government needs to be burned down, dissolved, whatever else. What I'm saying is the government needs to be restricted into the Constitution for the purpose of ensuring that it only does its job. It is a wild creature. It is a dangerous animal, government, and it needs to be beaten into submission, retrained, caged, and held on a short leash. Excuse me, not leash. And the fact is, we have allowed this dangerous creature to lock us into our own homes, to destroy our businesses, to claim authority over our children and their futures. They want to harass you. They want to eat out your substance. It's really that simple. And this is why, because they follow this ideology that Mr. Lewis has made eminently clear to us. Bad angels, like bad men, are entirely practical. They have two motives. The first is fear of punishment. So when I was in the legislature, I regularly talked with other delegates, with senators who would say, man, I agree with you. You know, I'm with you. You got my moral support, but man, I can't vote that way because I'll lose my committee assignment. I'll lose my chairmanship. Okay, but what's the point of having a position of influence if you don't influence things for the good, influence people for the good, influence the process for the good? Okay, so in doing that, you might lose your position of influence, but at least that one time you used it to do something right. Man, can you imagine what it would be like if these people we send to our capitals would actually just that one time do the right thing, no matter what it costs them? Wouldn't that be amazing? First is fear of punishment. The second motive is a kind of hunger. They just need to be in that seat. They need to be acknowledged as somebody, to be called the Honorable Smith, or to be called Senator so and so. They need it. God, it's this deep-seated hunger in their souls, because you understand what those words mean. It means that other people are bowing and scraping before them, and that's their deepest need. Folks, you've got to get this straight. You've got to understand what's really going on. All right? This is not about the reds and the blues. It's not about the liberals and the conservatives. Neither of those words actually mean anything, by the way, in today's common parlance. You need to figure that out, okay? It's not about, these guys versus those guys. It's not about the North versus the South. It is about the dumb animals and those who would consume them. Don't be a dumb animal. And don't be one who would consume them. Be a man. Be a man in the classic sense of the word. Be a rational animal who walks on 2 feet, who stands up for what's right, who acknowledges the authority of God and his law, who stands up for the dignity and the response and the validity of each other human being, who will defend someone else's rights, because not only are we called to defend other people's rights, but because we know that if we fail to defend Bob's rights today, that tomorrow there will be no way, there will be no logical method for defending our own rights. You got to get there. We have to get there. We have to get there yesterday. That's really the short version, guys. So, almost heaven, like hell. Let's work on it. I got to go. Got to get the kid to practice. Thank you for showing up. God bless you all. Take care.